the extra bit about you being married and we're not. But our daughter, they were open together.
It feels like it sometimes, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things after 20
I just always assumed.
Hey everybody, it's John Lamberton here alongside my good friend and business partner, Mr. Jason Brockman. We are here for another episode of the Ambitious Lifestyle Business Podcast, where as always, it is our job to help you get more customers and make more money without just working harder. So without further ado, let's dive straight into this month's episode.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Ambitious Lifestyle Business Podcast. Today we are joined by husband and wife duo Jon and Miriam, who run Mod Mini, a BMW Mini. Yeah, that's right, John. Wave at the camera on an audio podcast. For those watching the YouTube, you've had some joy there. Mod Mini is a BMW Mini performance parts e-commerce store, and they also run Talk Monkey, a physical garage in Chelmsford, specialising in performance vehicles. Jon and Miriam, welcome to the ALB podcast.
Good morning or afternoon.
Fantastic to see you here. So when I sent over the kind of brief for today's podcast, I see, tell us a little bit about yourselves. Tell us what we need to talk about. And I think, Miriam, you wrote down that one of the real strong points we've got is that we have had no previous garage experience, and I hated cars until mid-2018. So why on earth do you end up running two car-related businesses having hated cars until 2018?
That would be my fault.
Yeah, that would be Jon's fault.
Yeah.
Basically, the really condensed version is that Jon's sister happened to buy a BMW Mini, and it was in Birmingham, and she didn't want to go and collect it herself. So Jon went up to Birmingham, drove it back, and from that point on was completely obsessed with it. He wouldn't stop talking about it. We had about 2 days before we went away on holiday for our anniversary, and he spent the entire of those 2 days not helping pack or anything, but just looking for cars. We bought one on the way to the airport and said, hold on to it for a week and we'll be back. And then from that point on, Jon was just absolutely besotted with this car. The problem with that was that we didn't really have a huge amount of income, and he'd already done the modified car situation before, and I just didn't want to waste our money on it. So I said that if you're going to have it, you have to be able to self-fund to be able to buy your own parts. So he then set up a little website selling performance parts. It didn't really take off a great deal because you didn't really put a great deal of effort into it. You wanted to earn £200. You made the £200 and then you just left it, sort of thing.
But you get all your parts at trade price, don't you?
Exactly.
Yeah. So, you can make a little saving.
So it wasn't until maybe 6 months after that Jon really started to grow the website, list more products, stuff that even he wasn't interested in necessarily, but that would sell. And we realized that we wouldn't really get much of a following without sort of posting on social media, Instagram, Facebook, etc. That's where all of the audience was really hiding. But Jon didn't want to man that front, and I used social media already in my own personal life, so I took over, sort of begrudgingly a little bit at first, but I thought, well, I'm not really that involved, and if I can help out and get a meal out of it, fine. Except for some reason, I actually really started to enjoy it. I felt like when I had a picture or a post or a product that sold well after posting about it, it was a little bit addictive. So I kept on growing and growing it. You decided to buy me a Project Mini to be able to start a YouTube channel. So it was a completely broken, ready to be scrapped Mini. And we spent a whole week. We took a week off work. We took literally every hour under the sun that we could possibly find to get it ready to go on track in 7 days. And from there, the YouTube channel sort of grew. I did my first track day, which was utterly terrifying from someone who literally didn't even like driving to work. And people just really enjoyed the fact that we had no experience, but loads of enthusiasm.
Yeah, it kind of helped that Miriam's a female and it's kind of a man's market. So I think that kind of helped quite a bit. But
yeah, I would agree. And not necessarily even in a sexist way, but just in a, if you don't really know what you're talking about, it's kind of hard sometimes to go to another man who does know everything. Yeah. Whereas it was easier for me to be that stepping stone, I think. But once we had the YouTube channel, people started asking us if we could fit parts to their own cars, etc. Which is when we started looking for the garage premises.
There's so much to unpick there.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, John, you mentioned just now the kind of almost the stereotype, isn't it? Almost like, oh, Miriam's a girl, so she won't know anything about cars. Miriam, you were on a 1% Club coaching call a month or two ago, and you'd brought in a resource that you'd created about, I think was it buying your first Mini?
Yes, yeah.
Things to look out for. And you kind of said, oh, you know, this is aimed at girls. It's aimed at, you know, if you're buying your first car, it's like, and all the blokes on the call just went, I'd like that, because I don't,
they did.
I don't know one end of the dipstick from another. It's like, actually, yeah, I wouldn't have a clue. When I bought my first car, not a clue. And I think we said on the call, like, if, you know, how do you change a tire? And I said, you phone the AA. That's the only way I know to change a tire. But it does break those stereotypes, having you as the face of the business, doesn't it?
Yeah, I would really. And also, I think because I can talk, it sounds really stupid, but I will tell someone how something works because it's a whirly gig that spins and you've got flap, or it's kind of language that people understand, I think, in a weird way. I obviously I can speak technical if I have to speak technical, but the majority of our customers don't actually want that.
Yeah, people love that.
Yeah.
Like, literally, if you listen to Miriam describing stuff on the phone, you're like, huh? What are you saying? And they're like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, that's great. Yeah.
It removes that level of fear, doesn't it? That, you know, again, every time I speak to a garage, it's like, oh, there's that expectation that because I'm a bloke, I should know this stuff.
Yeah.
And I should know what I'm talking about, and I don't. So actually someone explaining it to me in plain English that I will understand makes such a difference.
Yeah.
And I think it does also grow trust as well, because they know that I've been on both sides of the fence, as it were. So they know, like, I know how it feels to walk into a garage and have absolutely no clue and want John to take over and me just wait in the car park. I know all of those feelings. So I think on when customers realise that I've been on that side, they also can kind of trust me a bit quicker, really.
It's the curse of knowledge, isn't it? Because I think for a lot of business owners, because this stuff, what you do, comes very naturally to you and you just know it and you've known it for decades, it's very difficult to put yourself in the shoes of your customer who doesn't know any of this basic stuff that everybody knows. But actually, you're able to put yourself in their shoes very, very easily. And by doing that, you know what's going on in their brain.
Yeah.
Jace, what's it like for you? Because Jason's brother owns a garage as well. And Jace, I would put you in the same vein as me, that you'd probably just call Darren if you had a problem.
I'm absolutely in the same vein as you. Yeah, we didn't fall too far away from that. Yeah, no, he's obviously knows his cars, and I really don't. And yeah, anything that goes wrong is, Darren, can you come and help me out with this? Or this has just gone wrong. Or what does this light mean? Or should I stop now? Or the car says stop. Is that what I should do? Yeah, that kind of thing, really. So yeah, no. And one of the things I wanted to unpick from your first part there was that there was the idea of a challenge. We see across the internet, especially during COVID, etc., that everyone was taking on 5-day, 7-day challenges and stuff like that. But you turned your 7-day challenge into your marketing tool in terms of your YouTube channel and all that kind of stuff. And I think that's a really unique way of doing it compared to kind of what's already out there. So yeah, I just want to kind of who came up with that idea and actually creating that channel with that 7-day challenge in mind, of taking a ruin and turning it into a wreck, a track vehicle.
Well, I'd say that was probably almost accidental, wasn't it? Because we never planned on making it a challenge to promote the business. It was more, I had a week off, Miriam had a week off, let's do it and see if we can get it done in a week, and then out on the track for the following weekend. So it kind of just happened accidentally. But looking back, and this is the first time I've ever really thought about it, is when you just said that, it probably actually was quite good, because you get that now. You're right, all the time you get people saying, oh, I'm going to do a challenge and I'm going to do it in a week or a month, or all the other YouTube people seem to do it now. But at the time we didn't really think about it as that.
But it's just that brilliant way of getting people to know, like, and trust you. Find out who you guys are. You can show that you know what you're talking about. You're giving them the evidence there and then. Really, it gives them something to come back to every day to kind of follow your track, your actual project, and that's really good. And actually, lots of people go with, actually, I'd rather like to have an old car and turn it into something that I can then use. And actually, you've just kind of demonstrated that it's possible. And fairly ordinary people who didn't like cars been able to take it into that thing. I think it's just a really great well done for that accident.
It
was good fun, and actually we learned quite a lot, even just in simple things. So how to bear each other's company when things go wrong, which was such a massive issue for us most of that week, if I'm honest. But it was really good fun as well, and like learning how to edit. We've not really done that before, how to upload to YouTube and things like that. It was a really steep learning curve, but it was a fun one.
Yeah, it was definitely.
And that finite window of the 7-day challenge that made it so that you couldn't achieve perfection. You had to just get it out.
Yeah, 100%.
I think was it Carl Che, the YouTuber, said that when he started vlogging and it's just 8 a.m. every day, there will be a new video. If by 7:45 you feel it's not perfect, it's still got to go live at 8 a.m. And that pressure of they're expecting a new video. I love the storytelling within that. If you think about any sort of TV show, like the reality TV shows, DIY SOS, they do it in 24 hours or 48 hours. Gordon Ramsay's Kitchen Nightmares, he's got 5 days. And it's that time window, the time pressure that you're up against, that adds that element of, I want to say, danger, that this could go wrong, because will they make it till the track day? There is a storytelling rule that at any point during the story, you need to know what is the objective here. What does our hero want, and what will happen if the hero doesn't achieve what he wants? So you guys are the heroes. Will you make it to the track day?
Back off.
Will you wipe out your brand new Toyota GT86 at 120 miles an hour on the bloody tyre wall at Castle Coombe? I take it you guys successfully made it through the track day.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest shock I think of it all was we literally went from, we finished the car in the day before, didn't we? And it went to an MOT in the morning because we needed to drive it to the track.
Yeah.
And it passed the MOT, had a couple of advisories, but like, we can actually drive to the track now. So it kind of like, we almost couldn't go on the track that we'd just paid for as well. So, if it hadn't passed the MOT, we wouldn't have been able to go. So we was just shocked that when we got it in there, they're like, oh yeah, it's passed. I was like, what?
Did you have track day insurance? That's my next question.
We do.
Yeah, I do insist on it every time we go on track, which is always so annoying. So I think if I didn't spend the money, I could go on track more often.
Yeah, especially as it's like the same amount as a year.
Yeah,
much, isn't it? It's a good couple of £100 to insure a car.
Yeah, well, I didn't, by the way, have track day insurance. So when I had basically just taken off my entire left wing and bonnet and door and everything, I well and truly screwed my car up. And of course, I'm parked in the car park there whilst no one's allowed on the track because they need to rebuild the tyre wall. Of course, everyone's just swamping to my car and just taking photos. And I was like, so in my mind, I'm like, okay, I could make a fortune selling track day insurance here. Because all I do is the car's drivable, okay? Because I've got my rear view mirror, I've got my driver mirror, so it's legal. Got the garage to check it out. He said, yep, your steering's fine, you can drive this car home. And all I can do, I'll just drive it 2 track days. I won't get it fixed. I'll just leave it looking like this. And just with a big sign saying, don't forget your track day insurance. Make it claim.
Yeah.
Cool. So let's fast forward then to your decision that the best time possible to launch a physical garage business was what? April 2020?
Yes. Yeah, that probably wasn't the wisest decision that we've ever made. We started looking probably about a year before that, not actively, but say once a month we'd go and see somewhere that Jon had found. They were never really great, no parking or well out in the middle of nowhere or anything like that. So we didn't really find the one we wanted until about Christmas. What would that make it? 2019.
Yeah.
And we loved it straight away. It was messy, but it was really central. It had really nice neighbours. It looked perfect. Just a bit grubby, really, and just needed a bit of a tidy up and organisation. So we decided that it would be exciting to be able to put our name down for it, sign everything without having any checks on any contracts. We went in completely blind, to be honest. We didn't really know what we were doing. We just thought it would be a good idea. Yeah. As it happens, the contracts that we had got from Google were not really contracts. What we bought was not what we thought we'd bought. The inventory that what we had seen wasn't what we arrived to. And on top of that, it was just announced that everyone was in lockdown and no one was to really use their cars anyway. So we were really, really genuinely the most terrified I've ever been in my life about anything before.
Yeah, it was fun.
But you were told it was a 3-week lockdown, so it'd be fine, yeah?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because when we paid the deposit and everything, it was like, oh, it's not going to come to the UK and all this stuff, and then it was like, oh, it'll be all right. And then when just like a week before, didn't we? We tried to pull out, but he's like, well, I'm not giving you a 50% deposit back. So we're like, oh, do we just lose the money or do we do this?
And unfortunately, I'm really sentimental and a little bit stubborn. And literally 2 months before all of this happened, my granddad, who had garages before in the past and I was really, really very close to, he had just passed away. And one of the last things I'd said was, I'm really excited, Grandad. We have a garage. We're actually going to do it now. And so at that point, I'm like, well, we've already told Grandad. Grandad's now died. And we're going to have, I just want to do it now in his memory and actually say we did it. Even if it's only 6 months, I want to have a really good 6 months of just having fun.
Yeah. So, we got the keys. Lockdown was announced. And then it was just a whole, 6 months or so of
silence, basically.
Yeah, no phones ringing, no cars coming in. And that was
the MOT deadlines were kicked further down the road, weren't they?
Yeah, you got a year's grace on your MOTs, and we was just like, what are we going to do? But then we got so lucky at the same time, didn't we? Because we had our online shop business, and everyone's at home, and they're like, I know what I'll do. I'll buy parts for my car and have a crack at fitting them myself.
Yeah, I've got time to finally develop that passion project.
Exactly. And we went from not making many sales, well, you make sales, but it's not like a business or something you can live off, to being, oh my word, how are we going to keep up with this?
We basically 6 times overnight without having really much effort really put in ourselves. Mm-hmm. And then at that point we realized, okay, the garage is now going to be good storage. We can ram it to the rafters with car parts and boxes. It doesn't really matter because cars aren't coming in. We'll just change our tack for a little bit. Jon was furloughed from his full-time job. I worked from home, so I could just take my laptop in and sit and work whilst Jon organised things. Our families all helped out a lot. They were, bringing food in for us, etc., so that we could stay there and just sit there and all night. And everyone was really so kind. Even the neighbours, if they had tools that they didn't need anymore, if they had duplicates, they'd be bringing them over to us that we could try and
create tools if we needed them.
The inventory that we thought we had but we didn't. Everyone really genuinely pulled together, and I think that is actually down to Jon. Jon is the most friendly, chatty person to his absolute annoyance sometimes, but making friends was 100% one of the reasons why we stuck it out as well.
Yeah, it was good. It turned out something we really just didn't expect. We thought we're going to be closing this in a few months. We've made a massive mistake, and it was just we got really, don't know if it was lucky or.
Our goal was just to get to the next month, and it was like that for about 12 months. We racked up huge debt, which unfortunately meant that Jon couldn't leave as planned his full-time work. That was a real disappointment, and it was very difficult because we were suddenly working so many hours, considering what the group is all about, being lifestyle orientated. We had no life whatsoever. but little by little, you could see that it was making slight dents. So like in your book, John, with the pipelines, yeah, you were working really hard, but once those pipelines had been built and laid, we could feel that, after 2 years, we were slightly easing off. After 3 years, we've slightly eased off. And this year, I think we are actually going to really enjoy doing what we do now.
So good to hear. Really is. I think we often talk about the balance between working hard and just sort of optimizing margin gains, 1% improvements. I think when you're first starting out, hard work is almost a prerequisite. You have to happen. If, as they say, if you don't have resources, you need resourcefulness. So that determination to keep going, and that promise you made to your grandfather probably was the thing that kept you going, other than the fear of it all falling down around you, meant that you just did what you had to do. But as they say, what got you here isn't what's going to get you there. And I think accepting that you need to have a tough couple of years, whereby, John, you needed to stay in full-time employment for a bit longer, needed to go a bit underwater in terms of debt, needed the work-life balance to be more at the work end of the seesaw than the other end, temporarily, is perfectly acceptable. And, we're not here again preaching about lifestyle to just say, no, start your business and then go off on holiday and just outsource everything and, just don't worry about making any money. No, you've got to put some hard work in. I mean, I think I've written down here baptism of fire, which I think is pretty much your introduction to the business, wasn't it?
It was definitely.
I think in lots of ways, John's family is so entrepreneurial that they were really encouraging. My family are very nervous and safe, and that's probably how I've been brought up. So I think perhaps as a mix of both of us, that did help as well. I think we both had to learn to compromise a little bit on how we both wanted to kind of make things work, and I think that has made a big impact.
Do you have different sort of polar mindsets around that then, John? If you're entrepreneurial, Miriam, you're more safe and conservative.
I'm like, I want to expand. I want to make the business bigger. I want to do this. I want to buy this. And Miriam's like, no.
Just no. Yeah.
Yeah.
We would have gone bust ages ago though if it wasn't for Miriam keeping me under control. So I think it's kind of like, I can't remember is it the E-Myth book where it might not be, but you've got the technician, the manager, and the entrepreneur. And I've always been the entrepreneur side, let's do this. And then we've got Miriam that's like, no, we need to do this. And then we've got our technician, which is Tim, that does all the work side, the manual work. So we kind of have that balance really well. But it's just making it work that's always fun. And we don't always see eye to eye, but mostly we do. Yeah. Miriam's got a good whip. Keep us all under control.
I was going to ask that question really. We fast forward a little bit further, don't we? Where you've now left that full-time job and you've
exactly.
Now. So I was just going to then go on to say, actually, that's interesting because Miriam's kind of had control over the business for the time where you've had to do your full-time work and things like that. So actually, it's quite interesting that you've now come in and taken up that full-time role within your own business, and just kind of that dynamic. Really, how's that working?
Yeah. So when was it? August. August. I took voluntary redundancy. They were making people redundant, and I said, "Can I be one of those people?" I thought this is the perfect time to take a leap. I'll get paid to leave, sort of thing. So it's this is going to be scary, but let's just do it. There's no probably better time to do it. And I think we get on quite well. We're both given. Miriam does her jobs and I do my jobs, and we try not to jump on each other's toes. So I think from that point of view, we get on really well. Miriam does more of the admin-y, accounty, social media-y side of things, and I kind of do the sales. I work on cars occasionally. Miriam's the customer relations kind of person. She's so good at that. Making customers feel comfortable, making them understand what's going on. So I think together we get on really well as a team.
I think as well, because we are husband and wife duo, we kind of already have the same sort of goals. You know, like we both want to have the same house, we both want to have the holidays, etc. So I think working in partnership is easier in that sense, because although you might have day-to-day niggles, or why did you put that in that drawer? It goes over here, kind of discussions heatedly sometimes. Ultimately, at the end of the day, we both want to work hard and make the extra, we might need an extra 10 sales to be able to go on holiday for our anniversary. We are really we do work really well in that sense. And we go home together in the same car, and there's no way I'm getting in that car if we're still arguing. So if we have to just sit there for an extra 15 minutes and hash it out for a bit longer just to go home and be peaceful, then that's the situation that we do. We try really hard to make sure that when that door locks, that we are back to the square one and happy again.
Yeah. And there's also a lot to say, like we've got really lucky with Tim, our mechanic. He does all the car stuff. He doesn't moan about it too much, but he really is an absolute saviour for us, isn't he?
Yeah, he really did help us a lot.
Like through lockdown, he'd if we did have a car come in and like we're busy with sales and stuff, because he wasn't employed by us at the time, he would come in the evenings and he would sit and do bits, stay there till 10, 11 o'clock at night doing bits and then going home himself. And from that point of view, we kind of
having the right staff was a massive. I mean, we've had wrong staff, but we've had right staff. So I think seeing the difference and seeing the impact that can make is enormous as well.
Yeah, and to this day, Tim, you couldn't get anyone more loyal. You couldn't get anyone more hardworking.
No.
And yeah, it really does make a massive difference if you've got the right people. So like between the three of us, we make a really good team, I think.
I think there's two key aspects of that you've just said, really, and that's vision and values. And for your business and for each other, you've got a good identified shared vision and values for that business, and also for yourselves as well. And I think that's obviously really important for any business, but for you guys, it's and for anybody else who's working as a partnership. So John and I have a shared visions and values which we're on board with, and anybody else working, as husband and wife or in a partnership, is really important to have that. And I think the other second thing which you've taken from that, and again, John and I lead this in our business as well, it's that set roles and responsibilities. He knows what he's really good at and what he can do, and I know what I'm really good at and what I do, and we keep those two things separate completely, so that just reduces that amount of friction between the two of us, and I'm guessing between the two of you guys as well. And I appreciate the extra bit about you being married, and we're not, but our daughters are open together.
It feels like it sometimes, doesn't it?
Well, it's one of those things after 20
I just always assumed.
But yeah, those set roles and responsibilities are clearly defined, is really, and again, bringing Tim into that equation too, you've got that dream team actually of here's what I'm doing and this is what you're doing and this is what you're doing, and actually without treading on anybody's toes, which is those, again, reducing that friction point.
I think, again, the reason that Jason and I have worked so well together, and it sounds like the reason I think you two work together, is that yin and yang, because you are different people, because you do have different mindsets. If you were both hugely entrepreneurial, then no one's thinking about the risks. No one's calming anybody down. Everyone's going, yeah, let's do it. Oh, we're going to be brilliant. And then before you know it, whoops, someone's made a silly mistake. It'd be the other person. It wouldn't be you, of course.
Always. It's always Miriam's fault. Always.
When I think about the best partnerships I've seen, but also the worst, it's either because they've been too similar or it's because they are wildly different. And I think you have to have that, I'm going to say, balance, because sometimes you need that conservative reining in, and sometimes you need to be told you're playing it too safe. We're thinking too small. There's an opportunity here where, yes, we could lose 20 quid, but we could make 500. Whereas you're focused on the 20 quid and saving and not losing. And I think having that balance between the two is so important. Thinking about your journey within the 1% Club, I think you originally joined us quite early on in the journey, didn't you? Was it a lockdown? Was it when you first got the garage?
Yeah, we did have the garage. So this all stemmed from when I was at my day job, I used to listen to audiobooks on Audible, and I just happened to come across your Big Ideas book, sat and listened to it, and I was like, oh, this is a really handy book, because we're a small business, we're struggling. I was like going home to Miriam, I was like, oh, listen to this today, you need to listen to this, and you need to listen to this. Miriam's she's not so much of a fan of audiobooks. She prefers like an actual physical book to read, or at least on a tablet. So I was like showing her all these bits, and then she bought the book, and then I was like, I think we need to join the 1% Club. And it was just coming up to September. I can't remember what year. It must have been 2019, maybe. I don't know. Oh no, it must have been 2020. I think. But I said, Miriam, I'm signing us up. And she didn't really have
the
a choice.
entrepreneur went, I'm going all in.
Yeah, that's it. I was like, let's sign us up. But it sounds like it's going to be really, really good.
What John meant to say is that he signed me up.
Yeah, that's what I remember. So I signed it. Just honestly, it was just like I started listening to your book in like August, I think, and then at the end of the book it says something about we only do March and September. I'm like, oh well, September's just around the corner. So yeah, I signed us up, and then we joined, and then that's when Miriam kind of, because I'll be honest, she spends more time on it than I do. You probably noticed that. I do look through stuff and I'll comment on things like when I see something I feel like I can add value to, but not necessarily as much as Miriam does, where she's like on all the calls, she's always replying to people and all that thing. So Miriam's kind of more the 1% of the year award person in our team.
The one thing I would say though is that when we did join, it was at the time of it being pretty hideous, and my mind was just all over the place. I couldn't concentrate on anything for more than 5 seconds before I was just thinking of all the numbers that we were losing. So although we did join, and I loved the calls and seeing everybody in from a social point of view, it was really helpful, and it kind of gave us a routine. I don't necessarily think that perhaps we were your ideal candidates at that very first induction.
No.
I think perhaps it would have been better if we had joined later on. Then again, when we did come back, at least I knew that I wanted to come back for all those right reasons.
Yeah, that's it.
Why did you join in? Obviously, it was March, and that was the time you had to do. So you joined us March 21 to October 21 is when you left. You kind of did 6 months with us, and then kind of left. So, my thoughts are when you joined in that March, what were you hoping to get from 1% Club that maybe that didn't happen in that 6 months, maybe, or maybe it was just the fact that actually it was a lot different than what you needed at that particular time.
I think I got out of it that we needed to grow and we needed to do better. We needed to reduce friction and all those things. But I think that in my head, all I wanted to do was get to the next Monday and not collapse. And I think I was really hard on myself because I wasn't doing those 1% improvements. I could see everybody else was, that I found it very difficult to not find that more disheartening.
Yeah, because at this point it was just Miriam on her own. So she's doing the admin, she's doing the customer relations, she's answering the phone, she's dealing with customer issues, and all these things. And then you've got the 1% Club on top of that. And it was, I think, just that when everything starts mounting up, you kind of it
was hard to not see the growth. When looking back in hindsight, there was, but it wasn't a noticeable amount for me to find it encouraging.
Yeah, and it was a lot of time taken to get that, I guess, and you didn't have that resource to be able to kind of implement the things that you were kind of hearing and seeing at that time. So actually, from that point of view, it was as you say, the wrong time, because you weren't in that right headspace because you were too busy in the doing the to be able to say, actually, I want to give some time to the 1% Club. I need to see these growths, so I'm going to put that implement the stuff that I'm learning in there. You just didn't have that time at that point. So how did that change a year later? Because then you kind of rejoined us in just after our intake in September, so you came back in 2022. So what do you think changed in that 12 months that you kind of took that break?
I think for me, because John wasn't there full time at that point, I could see that I could set aside time to work on the business. So I felt like I could actually, like John said, add value to the group. I wasn't just going to be someone at the sidelines sort of just watching it at that point. Like John said, Tim had sort of taken over the workshop. That is really his domain. He does everything really for that, and it's no longer my problem. So therefore I could work on the website, I could work on growing customers, etc. And then that was when it sort of snowballs, because then when you are making those 1% improvements and actually doing it, it's really encouraging then to go to the next 1%, etc. And it became fun. And I really started to enjoy the business a lot more once I could actually do that.
Yeah, it's nice when you can start seeing the little things you do mounting up.
Yeah, and it's like, from my point of view, I could say to John, "Oh, I think we should do this," but because John wasn't there, he couldn't really. He was like, "Oh, that's fine. It's not a problem at the moment," because he wasn't in it to see it. Whereas now you're in it to see it.
Yeah,
you can really see what a difference getting rid of some areas of friction made, and how much time that you can really get back.
Yeah. It's just like simple ideas for processes. Like you'll be on a call and someone will say, "Oh, I'm thinking of doing this," or "I've just done this," and you think, "Oh, I can do that."
Yeah, you didn't even realise it was a problem.
You didn't even think, "Oh, yeah, that was a problem we had," and then you've got a solution, or at least an idea of something that you can do, whether it's a new app or a program that you can start using, or just a simple bit of advice. Or it's really handy.
It's interesting. I updated Big Ideas for Small Businesses last year, and I added a little bit at the end to kind of say, almost give people 4 reasons why they shouldn't join the 1% Club. And if I'm remembering this correctly, the 4 were: you need to be coachable, which you guys are. You need to be solvent, which I think you guys were just about by the skin of your teeth at the time when you first joined. You need to be not a dickhead. Yep, you've passed that and you're okay. And the final one was you need to have the capacity to actually implement it. And I think that's where it was perhaps falling down, was that you didn't have the time to do everything for the business. Because let's say Miriam was everything. And I remember seeing a video you did where you introduced us to all the different departments within the business, which were just all Miriam.
Yeah, exactly that.
But carving out the time to then come on a 90-minute coaching call and then have a one-to-one with Jason and then actually implement some of what you've learned. When have you got time to do that? And that's the key thing that I think, I don't know what your thoughts are, Jason, but I think that most people who join the 1% Club and then leave, that's the biggest objection we hear, is I just haven't got the time to implement this stuff. It's great. I'm enjoying coming on the calls. It's really enjoyable, but carving out, and what I branded 1% time, just carving out that time every week to just improve a process, to do a bit of marketing, to work, as Michael Gerber would say, on the business, is really difficult when you are a new business and you're doing everything and customers are screaming at you and your inbox is overflowing and you're just fighting fires. You're like, I haven't got time to work on the business because I'm too busy in the business. But once you've been in business for a few years, you know that if that carries on, you're never going to have time to work on the business because you're always going to be busy in the business.
And that's interesting because that's the other category of people. You guys fall into that new category, but actually it's a lot of existing businesses who and have been businesses for a long time who fall into the rut of actually just doing the do, and actually not thinking about that. Working on the business as well, and come and join us, because it's like, I need to make a change. I don't know what that change. I know that I need to make a change, but I don't know what that change is. And you're telling me this change, and I haven't got time to do that change. And I must leave. Does that make any sense? I've probably lots of changes.
Yeah, I think elbow grease is what got me here. So I'm just going to keep, and it's what I know.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to keep on hustling. I'm going to keep on working hard because I've been successful doing that. The fact that my health is deteriorating, and you've heard previous podcast guests talk about burnout and talk about overwhelm and talk about just mental health issues as a result of carrying on doing what got you here so far. Something eventually, I always talk about, airplanes, launch velocity. They burn a lot of fuel to get off the ground, but when they're cruising at 30,000 feet, they should not be dumping fuel still. They should be on autopilot with their feet up having a cup of tea.
Yeah, it's easy for those companies. It's your favourite word, John. You have to ring your bell. So it's easy once you get into the habit of working hard all the time.
The R word.
You need to. It becomes a routine to smash the really hard work all the time. Yeah.
So one other area which we've been talking about in the 1% Club a lot, and certainly because January's just been and gone, is about health and stuff. And I know that's an area of your life, John, that you've been wanting to work with and have been focused heavily on since a full-time job ending.
Since about mid last year, I've been trying to lose some weight. I got diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. And I was like, whoa, that's not good. And I didn't want it to get to type 1. So I'm like, right, it's time to start losing some weight. I've done it before about 10 years ago. Actually, was it before we got married? Yeah, before we got married. So it must be 10 to 12 years ago. I lost like 10 stone. And I was like, I can do it again. So from about mid last year to December, I was like smashing the gym, eating properly, lost another 5 stone. And then, over Christmas, I wasn't very good. I've got to start again in the new year. Well, now. And start smashing it again. But
it did make a big difference though, because we had to finish work at 5:30 to be able to get to the gym, to come back for dinner, except it wasn't just the losing weight, but it was what was also entailed in it, to be more disciplined.
And you make the gym or your health more important than the business. So before, when it gets to 5:30, I said, I'll just do this email, I'll just do this, and before you know it, it's 7-8 o'clock at night, and you're like, well, better go home now and have some food or whatever. Whereas now you're like, right, let's go to the gym, start winding down, go home, sit and chill, have some food, go to bed. And you kind of
bizarrely, the to-do list doesn't seem to grow if you don't do those extra 3 hours. It's sort of exactly the same as it would be if you just didn't leave. So it has actually made it's made us feel more determined to stick with it, because it hasn't made our lives harder.
Yeah.
And that's really interesting. That's something you're doing together. So you've both bought into the health mission, or the health goals that you want to set for yourself, John. And you're doing those together as well, and building them into that routine of your normal day.
Yeah, and it helps that we've got a little dog that just wants to be outside walking forever anyway.
He loves walking, and now I have to love walking. Even though that's something I always really hated. I hate going on walks. Couldn't think of anything worse. Like if I go to the gym, I can't do cardio. I just sit and do weights. That's all I do. I don't do anything else, because it's more enjoyable. Whereas, I'm not a fan of walking. But now I'm actually the one going, come on, Miriam, let's go for a walk. So it's become quite good. And, we end up walking like 5-6 miles sometimes, don't we? Which probably is short for lots of people, but for me, that's a very big walk.
Do you get the audiobooks in while you're walking as well?
No, I just listen to Miriam.
I also know that
Switch off.
Really good, because as much as we are married and we do get on, and I would call John my best friend before this, having more time just going outside for a walk, suddenly you are actually more friends. Even just simple things like, oh, look at that tree, what does that cloud look like? Or it's sort of things, conversations that you wouldn't normally have if you're just in front of the TV or whatever. And that's been more fun as well.
It's very interesting to see. We've just come off a 1% Club coaching call, looking at people's goals for 2024, and I don't know, probably a quarter of them were health related. And how many people talked about, yes, all right, we've just come off Christmas and people have let themselves go, but ultimately everyone's keen to get back on track. But what did we hear about? Clarity, energy levels, that key thing about, well, actually, I don't need to work as hard when I look after my health, because when I look after my health, suddenly I achieve more in 3 hours than I normally would in 5 hours. So I get to save those 2 hours. And it's amazing to see how, well, as they say, when you develop the business, you need to develop the business owner. So I guess if you're doing 1% improvements to improve the business by 1%, you improve the business owner by 1% too. So I think you're proof that is working for you, John.
Yeah, I'm getting there. Still got loads to lose, but one day I'll reach those goals. Hopefully, the end of the year. That'd be nice.
Absolutely. Well, I think there's plenty of accountability and goals and metrics being thrown.
I was going to say there's plenty of weight to lose.
So we'll get you swinging kettlebells and battle ropes around and climbing mountains. We had talk of climbing Everest this year. So you fancy that one?
Yeah, topless apparently.
I do look good topless, to be fair. Ironically, one of the guys in the garage opposite us did Everest Base Camp last year. That was absolutely amazing. Yeah, I don't think that's my cup of tea. Maybe one day. The helicopters.
So since we've moved to kind of health and lifestyle and climbing mountains and stuff like that, one of the questions we always ask our guests on the Ambitious Lifestyle Business podcast is, what does an ambitious lifestyle business mean to you?
Oh, see, I really liked thinking about this over the holidays, especially because we aren't necessarily raking in millions of pounds. We don't have a villa to go to every summer, etc., like that. We are really what I would consider normal people with a really nice life, but just normal in a flat with a car kind of people. But I really love the fact that because of what we do and because we have decided to work for ourselves, it's like a freedom to be able to do what we want when we want. So, you know, we can take our nan out for lunch, we can finish early, we can bring the dog to work, we can decide, oh, I'm not feeling very well today, I'm just going to work tomorrow instead. It's not so much that we have lots of things, but we just have freedom to be able to do what we want.
Love it.
Love that word freedom. It just comes up again and again. Like I say, it's that ability to just say, I'm not feeling it today, I'm going to sack it in. It's the ability to say, I don't want to work with that arsehole client. You know, that's the reason we have the no dickheads rule within the 1% club. Is actually, it's that freedom to say that's what we want. And I love that line, we're just normal people with a really nice life. Because I think I certainly had this when I first started out, and I thought, well, success means multi-millionaire, opening credits of The Apprentice. It's the Rolls Royce, it's the private jet, it's the yacht, it's the skyscrapers, it's the tailored suit. That's success. No, success is, screw this, I'm going for a walk with the dog. Work can wait till tomorrow. That's success. John, what's your take on that?
I kind of agree with everything Miriam said. It's nice. I mean, I've always been brought up to work hard all the time, every day. Make sure you're working. You know, don't have it. I mean, in my whole 10 years I was at the company I worked at last time, I think I had 2 days off sick, and that was because I was genuinely too ill to go. Mostly I just worked through it. Whereas now you can sit and think, well, I'm not feeling great today. I'd stay at home and I can either work on a laptop if I'm really desperate to work, or I can just sit and take the time that you need to rest up and get better. But it is really nice to just enjoy working and enjoy the freedom that it brings.
We didn't dread going back to work yesterday, for example, and that's the first time ever. I
said to Miriam, it's the first time in my whole working life I've not sat and thought, you know what, it's work tomorrow. I was just like, oh, going to work tomorrow, looking forward to it. It's going to be nice.
Brilliant.
And then it's nice as well when you get to work with like your best friend, and we've got Tim there, and he's probably more of a friend now than an employee at all. You know, we all get on really well, and it's nice to spend the time together.
Absolutely. Again, having been a
we do argue though, just to confirm, we do really hate each other sometimes.
We bicker.
Well, we set ourselves a challenge, didn't we, Jace? Before we started recording, we said we need to spark an argument between the two. We haven't really seen that, so I'm really disappointed in that.
He's been too nice, that's the problem. Now it looks fake.
The thing is, you missed Miriam pinching me under the table. She sat there going, no, you're not at all now.
We have seen you grimace every now and again. That must have been a pinch.
So I guess the final question I need to ask then is, what is the correct drawer, and who's been putting things in the wrong drawers?
John's just going to give up putting it on my desk now. I'm going to come in a mountain.
I just let's go on Miriam's desk. She knows where to put it. If I put it away, you know, if I put anything away, it's going to be in a week's time. John, where did you put that? Where did you put that? And I'm going to be like, I don't know. Yeah.
Well, thank you ever so much for joining us on this episode of the Ambitious Lifestyle Business Podcast. It's been excellent having you on here. Can't wait to see and hear what others have got to say about it. It's been really great and interesting. Thank you.
Oh, we really appreciate you being asked. Thank you very much.
We've loved having you guys on. Thank you ever so much. If anyone is considering buying a Mini and would like some advice from someone who's been there and done that, where's the best place they can go?
We have a library of resources on our website, which is modernmini.co.uk. And if you can't find what you're looking for, there is a chat box. Just fill it in and we will get back to you.
Yeah.
One of the team will get back to you. Probably you, Miriam, yeah?
Yeah. I'll just have a different hat on that day.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, guys. Have a good one. We'll see you all next month for another exciting episode of the AMB Podcast.
So there we are, another episode in the can. How was it for you? Please let us know. However you listen to these podcasts, please leave a review on that platform. Let us know what we can do better, what you like, what you don't like, and how we can improve to make this show even better for you. We'll see you next time.